Okay, can I have your attention, please? I'm Jay Bergman. I'm with the First Secure Bank, and welcome on behalf of the bank and all of us that are here today from the bank. We'd like to welcome you to our Medicare event. We've got an expert that's going to talk to us about Medicare. So Dave, would you like to come up here, please?
It would be my do so. Thank you, Mr. Bergman. Appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. Understand the excitement that's here tonight. We're going to talk about Medicare. Woohoo! Okay. My name's David Wiley. I'm an insurance broker. That doesn't mean anything here tonight. Tonight's all about education. I'm joined with Taylor, sidekick. We have an office in Lisle. As brokers, we represent all these things in the world of Medicare that make Medicare complete. But tonight's about education. And I got to tell you, we've done library seminars, we've spoken at old folks' homes, we've spoken at fire stations and community centers, but I've never spoken at a bank before. And I got to tell you, it's pretty impressive that a bank would reach out into the community. And I want to tip my hat to the folks at First Secure, Mr. Bergman. This is a wonderful invite to try to help you guys understand a little bit more about the world of Medicare. I would say, judging from the audience, there's maybe one or two people that are in the world of Medicare already, and maybe some of you have yet to join us in this world. But what you'll find is that Medicare is a complex situation if you try to digest it all at once. If we break it down into bite-sized chunks, it's going to make a lot more sense. And that's what we do. If you weren't surprised turning 65, you'll be inundated with information. We always say as you approach 65, your mailbox fills up with so much crap it almost tips over. The idea that all the insurance companies know you're turning 65 and they'll come at you with a vengeance. And your mailbox will fill up, but that's all propaganda. That's all advertising. That's not necessarily what you need to know to be able to make fully informed decisions. Your friends and family mean you well. I don't mean to discount that at all, but most of your friends and family have no idea what they've done, much less what you should do. And these different pathways, your sister's over here, the guy from work insists you need to be over here, mom and dad did this kind of thing. But the beauty of Medicare, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's complex because it's customizable. The ability that you have to cobble together a coverage benefit package that's specifically designed for you. Most people are going to come to this world off of their employer plan. And that was great benefit, but the employer plan, basically, they came to you once a year and said, here it is, take it or leave it. And you had very little input into that. That was all decided in a boardroom. And things that now you have to determine: network, deductible, co-insurance, co-payments, drug program, wellness benefit. Oh my goodness, there's a lot there. But the beauty of that is that it's customizable, and we can change it through the aging process. It's not a one and done situation. What we do is help people navigate this world. One of my favorite quotes from Mark Twain: good decisions come from experience, and experience comes from making rotten decisions. And we've seen people make every bad decision they could on this field, and we need to understand what our options are if we're going to make fully informed decisions. If you guys didn't know this, in the world of Medicare, every year we have this annual election period. If you haven't started to receive information from insurance companies, unsolicited phone calls, they know there's a window here where you can make changes to your coverage. It's right around the corner. Starts October 15th, goes through December 7th. And we have the ability to make mid-course adjustments. The problem that we see here all too frequently, people will make one decision, they'll throw it in the drawer, and they'll never look at it again. That's a tactical error. This is a field, a landscape that's been built for you with information to be able to make fully informed decisions. The Medicare and You book, 2026s have started to come out. Anybody got their 2026 yet? This is a pure source of information from the federal government. It describes these programs and how they work in generalities. You won't get a lot of declarative statements here. The government, like us, has to be Switzerland. We're not going to give you any direction other than giving you information. And this is a great source of information. We always say it's the encyclopedia of my industry. It does two things incredibly well: chock full of knowledge. It is also a tremendous sleeping aid. If you have trouble dozing off, this thing will knock you down in pretty short order. It's pretty dry, but the book is backed up by the world's easiest phone number, 1-800-MEDICARE. It's actually Medicare. There's one letter too small. But the 1-800-MEDICARE number, those are federal agents. They aren't salespeople. They're informational people. They're there 24 hours a day at this point, helping people understand the landscape, helping people make fully informed decisions. The book, the 800 number, backed up by a wonderful website, Medicare.gov. For the life of me, I don't know how they let Medicare.com come to market. That's a sales site. Be careful as you surf the web. They're capturing your information. They've got you on the phone before you even log off the computer. This idea that we have all sorts of great informational drop-downs here, the one we use at this time of year, and you should be using, is this Find Health and Drug Plans. In a world of competition, Medicare loves capitalism. But capitalism thrives if you've got vicious competition and complete transparency. And that's what Medicare insists. All the drug programs have to show us their cards every year. Yesterday for us in the world of Medicare, almost like Christmas, we get up on October 1st and we get to see what they brought us because they have to show us every plan, every detail. The drug programs, every year during this annual election period, you have the ability to make a change between October 15th and December 7th. The idea that people pass on that, and I know the reasoning, oh, they're all the same. Well, there's 15 of them. How could they all be the same? Oh, they all go up every year. No, they don't. Some come down. Well, my stuff is working fine. I just won't take a look at it. You better take a look at it. And the government insists that these companies not only show us online, but they send you what's called the annual notice of change. If you haven't seen that and you're currently in Medicare, you need to call the number on the back of your card and say, where's my annual notice of change? Because they have to show you things that have changed for the next year. Your drugs may have changed, or the program may have changed, or your premiums may have gone up. Ben Franklin said there were two things in life that were certain. He was wrong. There's three things in life that are certain: death, taxes, and the rising cost of health care. If we don't avail ourselves of these tools, and this allows us to compare every drug program for the next year and find out what the best one is for you, because the best one for 2026 might not have been the one that was the best one for you for 2025. What's Medicare? Pretty simple. It's a government insurance program for folks over 65. If you've worked 40 quarters or your spouse has worked 40 quarters, you're entitled to this as of the first day of the month in which you turn 65. And it's also, people can get here kind of sad stories where if you've been declared disabled for 24 months, you can get to Medicare, or if you've got some dread disease. But the key takeaway here, right here, and not to be Johnny Raincloud, but to get it out on the table, Medicare was never designed to cover 100%. You were always going to have skin in this game. The question is, what's covered, what's not covered, and what can we do to defend ourselves from these gaps in coverage that Medicare does not cover? This is where your journey begins, the red, white, and blue Medicare card. Most of our parents took Medicare the first day of the month in which they turned 65. That's the earliest you can get it. But a lot of baby boomers are changing this marketplace. The landscape has changed quite a bit. Most baby boomers at 65 these days, they're in better shape than their parents were at 55. They're ready to keep working, and they like the money, they like the benefits, and if they keep the benefits, and where they work, there's more than 20 people that work there, the terminology for that, we call that creditable coverage. Creditable coverage allows you to potentially delay activating Medicare. Why would you do that? Well, you don't need Medicare and your primary coverage through work. You would take one or the other. We'd want to be well ahead of you turning 65 or the time and place that you decide to come off of your group coverage. Medicare typically won't even talk to you more than 3 months out. But we want to be ahead of this, to know what's going on, to look at the landscape ahead. It's not unusual. In the world of Medicare, everyone is treated individually. That sounds scary, but it's not. We can customize a package for dad that's totally different. Mom's coverage is totally different. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's customizable. And this offers the opportunity. Sometimes dad's going to keep working, mom's turning 65. Hang on a second. Did you say mom's turning 65? Maybe we could break her off the group coverage, bring her to Medicare, get her better coverage for less money. It's always worth being ahead of the curve when it comes to Medicare. A has no premium, and it typically can't hurt you. Even if you take your group insurance, keep it through work, that's just going to ride shotgun with your coverage at work and could provide some additional benefits. We'll talk about that in a second. But the B you'd want to be careful about, because the B does have a premium. And we wouldn't need A and B and our employer coverage. We'd want one or the other. What's the better value? We'd like to analyze that for you. That Part B has a premium. Everybody pays the base premium. The base premium this year is $185. That's per person per month. But understand, that number is graded for income. And if you didn't know this, the federal government is very excited to participate in your success. And the more you make, the more potentially they're going to take. Married filing jointly, 212, 266, 334, you could be breaking into higher brackets. This is called IRMA, your income-related monthly adjustment amount. IRMA is based on MAGI, your modified adjusted gross income. And I'll throw you a curveball. It's got a time delay because in 2025, the government's been waiting to get your taxes updated, and in 2025, they're actually looking at your 2024 returns. Your 2024 returns reporting what you actually made in 2023. So understand, every year they're looking at your income, but every year they're 2 years back. So people start to come towards the world of Medicare, and they're making decisions today that are going to show up 2 years down the road. Everybody's hot and heavy now with taking money out of their 401k and moving into a Roth, right? The Roth is going to be great. It's tax-free further down the road. But remember, that money that you took out is a taxable event. And we have people that veer into higher income levels, not realizing the mistake that they've made. We had a couple of years ago, they took money out of their 401k to help their daughter buy a condominium. That's why we work, that's why we save, to help our children. And they were dickering. Should we take out 85 or 90, 95? Just take out 100. That was a mistake. They veered over the 212 because of that withdrawal, and literally they're at like $214,000 according to the IRS this year. That means husband and wife each paying an additional $74. And the government's not done with your Part B. They also charge you more on your drug program as well. $1,370 times 2, $74 times 2, $175, $180 a month ain't hopefully going to bankrupt anybody. I just don't like it because it's an unforced error. I love my government. I just don't want to give them one more nickel than they're already taking. Be aware of these charts. Know that it's out there lurking and waiting for you. And for many of the people in this room, it wouldn't surprise me if you told me that you're already on required minimum distributions, RMDs. Those are going to rear their ugly head, and they're going to potentially push you as a married couple or as an individual up into higher brackets. Good tax planning is looking far ahead, okay? There's different parts of Medicare. We can cover them tonight. A and B form the foundation. A and B is between you and the folks at Social Security. There's no Medicare offices. It's all done under the banner of Social Security. Once you've got A and B, and we'll tear that apart in a second, you might want to pick up additional coverage to make it more complete. Remember, we said it's not complete. You'd certainly want a drug program. Those are viciously competitive and great for us as consumers. And you might also be looking at something called an Advantage program. That's an all-in-one package. We're heading for a world here, a landscape, and this is your Medicare map. Does everybody have this? If you don't, Taylor can get you one. But we use this at our seminars, and I like it because it's simple. And simple is good. If you try to digest this all at once, I promise you your head will explode. We've seen it before. The idea that you have here in front of you, the world of Medicare as we look down upon it from the Goodyear blimp. The Goodyear blimp, we look down and we see, okay, this new landscape, this new world that you'll enter into, and you got to have A and B to do anything else. A and B going to form the foundation. But we're also going to understand that A and B not being complete, we'd want to add additional coverage. That coverage can take two different philosophical pathways. One pathway called Original Medicare. That's where we add a drug program, we add a supplement, and those three pieces acting in concert like a three-legged stool provide our coverage. This is a pay in advance concept where you sleep well at night knowing virtually everything can be taken care of. Or you've got this idea of Advantage. And I know you've got pens and I know you've got your maps, so do me a favor, do us all a favor, and scratch out that word Medicare. Because Advantage is not a Medicare plan, it is a Medicare replacement plan, and not enough people understand the ramifications of that. We can drive down your premiums, but how do we drive down your premiums? You would have to have more participation. Insurance at its base is pretty simple. It's a sharing of risk. The more we want the insurance companies to do, they're happy to do it, but the more they do, the more they're going to charge. The more you participate, maybe that's a deductible or maybe some co-payments, or maybe it's even network restrictions. That can drive down your premiums. That's what we're going to deal with here as we look to fill in what Medicare doesn't cover. So what does Medicare not cover? Well, that's on this page here too. Some numbers that are relevant today in 2025. We have yet to see the 2026 numbers, but if I'm a betting man, they're going up, okay? Inflation is driving everything up a little bit. But look at Part A for a second. And if there was one word for Part A, what does Part A cover? All of your facilities, all of your buildings are coming up under Part A. It has no premium. I always get a kick out of agents when they try to tell you it's free. It's free. No, it's not. You paid a boatload in taxes. They just don't charge you more when you come to the party. But although A has no premium, there is exposure that you have if all you have is original Medicare. There's a copayment for the hospital, copayment for skilled nursing. There's even a copayment for hospice on our deathbed. A has no premium, but it's got exposure. And this is what this looks like in 2025. The copayment for one night in the hospital this year is $1,676. That's on you if all you have is original Medicare. $1,676 for one night, but that $1,676 would actually cover you for up to 60 nights in the hospital. But that idea that it on discharge will reset every 61 days, you could conceivably hit that several times in a year. You've got skilled nursing. There's a great base benefit of 20 nights for no charge as long as we've had a qualifying stay in the hospital. But if you stay longer, days 21 through 100, in the next 80 days, they're going to charge you $210 a night. That adds up. Understanding also, Medicare does not pay for long-term care coverage. That was never part of the deal. They're not going to be doing custodial care. They're not going to pay for somebody to come mow your lawn or do your dishes. That's a different kind of insurance called long-term care insurance. Home health services, wonderful benefit, no charge to us under A, and that idea that maybe a couple of physical therapy visits or maybe some wound dressing to get you back on your feet. And then hospice, a very minimal copayment for medications that you might take to remain comfortable before you pass away. There's A. Buildings, no premium for A, but exposure that we need to be aware of. Part B, if there's one word for A, it's buildings. If it's one word for B, it's services. Or we would make it easier and say A is all the buildings, B is everything that goes on in those buildings. So all of your services are going to bill up under B. That's why there's a premium, because it's doing the lion's share of the lifting. All of your doctor services, not just your primary, but your specialists, your podiatrist, your dermatologist, your chiropractor, your psychologist, all those are doctor visits, they'll bill up under B. All of your lab work, everything from a blood test to a biopsy, all of your diagnostic testing, we call that the expensive alphabet soup. EKG, EEG, MRI, CAT scan, X-ray, stress test, all coming up under B. Durable medical equipment, that could be a COPD machine, could be a pacemaker, could be an insulin pump, could be a brand new knee. If you got yourselves a brand new knee, you'd find out quickly PT stands for pain and torture, okay? The ambulance that takes us to the emergency room and everything they do there. All of our outpatient services, and this has become crazy. I mean, things that would have kept our parents in the hospital for days now, they're doing in a matter of hours. Knees and shoulders and hips, that's old hat. Now they're doing heart ablation. They're doing spinal surgery in a matter of hours. That's going to bill up under Part B. And the last part of B, clinical RX, which I would call scary medications, chemotherapy, kidney dialysis, radiation treatment, big ticket items. If it's delivered in an outpatient setting or it's delivered in the doctor's office, it's going to bill up under Part B. That's different than the stuff we're getting at Walgreens for high blood pressure or CVS for cholesterol stuff, right? Part B has its own structure. A kind of has a pay-as-you-go. Do this, pay that, do this, pay that. B, on the other hand, very similar to most employer plans. It's got a deductible followed by coinsurance. The deductible is crazy. $257, seriously? That's like a doctor visit. I don't think you could find a blood panel that retails for under $300. But the first 257's on you, and then Medicare shows up, and they start picking up 80% of this. And that's pretty darn good. For $185 a month, that's pretty darn good, but it ain't 100%. And in fact, the 20% that you're held responsible for, the scary part, it's unlimited. There's no stopping it. 20% of a lot can be a lot. And then you throw in the concept of maybe a hospitalization or maybe a stay in a skilled nursing facility. We can see pretty quickly Medicare is very good, but it's not complete, okay? You guys with me so far? I'll take questions at any time. You can slow me down. I had a cup of coffee. Yes, please. That's per person, per month. Yes, sir. Everything is done individually, and it's graded for income. So watch that, okay? Your questions will drive this conversation. My goal is to be Switzerland. I want to be neutral here tonight. I've got no dog in this fight. We represent all these products, but if you have specific questions about what you have, you can ask them in front of the group or ask us at the end as well. So there's A and B, and now we start our journey. This new world, this new landscape where I'm telling you it's great news. There's a new sheriff in town. It's called Medicare. And the federal government is watching out for us, watching us as agents, watching out for you, wants you to have information, wants you to make fully informed decisions, and they become the primary here. They're the ones that run the show. And the government realizes that this is not perfect, it's not complete, and it offers you the opportunity. Private insurance companies will offer you products to make it more complete. But those companies operate under the very short leash and the watchful eye of the federal government. Highly regulated business. Very, very important to understand you've got somebody looking out for you. A and B good, and on this pathway called Original Medicare, Medicare becomes your insurance. Medicare is the network, Medicare's running the show. And this is tough for people to wrap their mind around because they've brought 65 years of experience to a new landscape, a new world. This world of Medicare where for 65 years, you've been with an insurance company. You've come to understand the concept of network. You've got to stay in network. You can't go out of network. You're going to get clobbered. So, okay, now I'm coming to Medicare. What's my network? With Medicare, Original Medicare, any doctor, any hospital, anywhere in the United States or its territories, you're covered. The network is called Medicare. People want a PPO. Okay, I give you a PPO on steroids. Your Blue Cross Blue Shield group policy is a very, very good network. Medicare is vastly superior. We've just opened the door to Johns Hopkins and Cleveland Heart and anywhere down the road. All of those major players take Medicare, you're in. It's a beautiful thing, but it's not complete. So you said there were leftovers. What do we do with those leftovers? We can send them to a private insurance company, and that private insurance company can supplement what Medicare does, or if you prefer the term, can fill in the gaps of what Medicare doesn't cover. We use the term interchangeably just to confuse you. Medicare supplements and Medigap plans are the same thing. But these guys now, unlike the under 65 world, where you can't make a direct comparison because Humana is doing something different than Aetna, and Blue Cross has different networks, and United Healthcare has different co-payments. In the under 65 market, you're left smoke and mirrors, trying to figure out how to make a direct comparison. Medicare says, we're not playing that game. You want to sell these? This is the second page on your handout. This is the field of play that are known as Medicare supplements. And I would put forth to you, it's a beautiful field of capitalism because Medicare has standardized these packages. There's 10 of them. My God, why 10? Because different people have different needs. Insurance is a sharing of risk. The more you want the insurance companies to do, they're happy to do it. And on this field of play, I've got the penthouse, I've got the pup tent, and we've got everything in between. What's right for you, different than your neighbor, different than the guy at work, different than what your cousin did, but you get to make these decisions. But understand, Medicare's got base benefits, good but not complete, and then Medicare has standardized 10 different levels of coverage. What does that mean? Well, that means if we're looking at N, Medicare says what N is. It's a package of benefits. Wait. You're telling me that N from Blue Cross Blue Shield would be similar to N from Mutual of Omaha? No, it's not similar. It's identical. Medicare says what N is. Yeah, but wait a second. I know my doctor takes Blue Cross Blue Shield. Does my doctor even take Mutual of Omaha? No, sir. Does your doctor take Medicare? On this side of the equation, Medicare is the determining force, not the secondary insurance that you've picked up from any of 44 companies that offer these things. The beauty of the system is 44 companies, complete transparency, all beating each other over the head to win your business. And in fact, the big three historically have been the F, the G, and the N. 3 different levels of coverage, but it's a good cross-section. F, kind of the granddaddy of them all. Very popular for years because it was very easy to understand. F is the package of benefits that as long as you write that check every month, this goes away. No deductible, no co-insurance, no co-payments. Wait a second, you said the more the insurance company does? Yeah. And that F is so incredibly top-heavy, it's so expensive, they stopped marketing it to new enrollees in 2020. The idea that you had a package of benefits, and we still have people to this day who have F supplements, and they'll brag on it because they'll say, I never see a bill. Well, that's true, but the reason you never see a bill is there's a giant sucking sound coming out of your checking account every year to pay for a zero deductible insurance product. Would you carry a zero deductible on your automobile insurance? Oh no, that'd be ridiculous. Okay, same concept. If the insurance company's doing everything, you might want to take a look at that and understand that G has become the new golden child. G that does almost everything, does almost everything, wait, there's something there, you gotta pay that. What is that? You pay the Part B deductible. So if on your sheet there you wrote $257, that's the annual deductible one time this year. And paying that $257 will save you hundreds of dollars in premiums. It's the proverbial no-brainer. It's better value. But in a world where insurance agents are compensated by the amount of money that you spend, we're commissioned agents, a lot of people in years gone by would listen to the agent who said, well, F is the best thing you can possibly get. Well, it's the best thing for the agent because the most expensive thing you can buy, it pays the highest commissions. Take G, for example, and G is a wonderful package of benefits, and G does something that I can't measure. I've got a calculator, and I can run numbers all day long, but G offers something called peace of mind, knowing once you've paid that $257, you're done. But many baby boomers are in pretty good shape, and they understand this sharing of risk, and I would have to talk to you about the N. The N supplement takes it one step further. G says pay the deductible and walk away. N says no, after the deductible. N says you'll also agree to doctor co-payments, very bottom of the page. $20 to see a doctor, $20 to see a specialist, $50 if you go to the emergency room. That's going to drive your premiums down because you've reached into your pocket a little bit. This idea of you accepting a little bit more risk, on my calculator I can show you N makes very good sense for anybody that's not going to the doctor more than 25 times a year. That's a big number. And yet my industry, I can't tell you how many people we meet with that say, well, the other guy never even mentioned N. Why was that? Because the G's more expensive. It pays a higher commission. The idea that you want to know what all of your options are and to be able to potentially make moves. Please.
I'm sorry, are you saying M as in Mary?
I'm
or
saying N as in Nancy, the one that's highlighted in red.
I'm sorry, I can't see your highlighting.
Sorry. N as in nice.
N, thank you.
Yep, there you go. And it can be a very valid place for you to be. On these supplements, 44 companies want your business initially, and 44 companies are on the table initially, but your ability to move to any of these products initially, all doors are open, but that's a limited window of enrollment. You get 1 year, you get 6 months before you activate, 6 months after you activate, go anywhere you want to go, they got to take you, it's the law. But eventually you're going to get more than 6 months out. When you get more than 6 months out, you have the right to change these programs every month of the year. This is not something that comes up during the annual election period. You can change a supplement any time of the year, but now they get to ask you medical questions. And you may not be able to get through medical underwriting, and you may feel like you're stuck, but you're not stuck because in Illinois, 2 words we don't often hear in the same sentence. In Illinois, we have a blessing. We have a Medicare supplement company that does not ask medical questions. So even if you're in F and you think you can't get out, you can. And if you're in G and you see the value of N, we can move you. That idea of remaining flexible, the insurance companies hate that. They want you to make one decision and never change, but that's not in your best interests. You're never handcuffed here. We have the ability to make changes down the road, okay? Questions on supplements? Please.
So this is all under Medicare?
Under original Medicare, we've got A and B. We're using that as our primary. And then we know that A and B don't cover everything, so we're going to pick up additional coverage to make it more complete.
Okay, but for the supplements, there's Medicare supplement, and then there's, let's say, Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Correct? Yep. There are 44 companies that offer these supplements, but 44 companies offering G. G is outlined by the federal government. G is a package of benefits, but you've got 44 companies that offer G. Very competitive, keeps prices in check. The challenge here is sifting through 44 companies to find out the 3 or 4 that we would recommend you do business with, and we recommend the big players. Why is that? On this field of play, you can never be singled out for a rate increase. Your claims are shared by everyone that's in your risk pool. If you choose a small company with low rates for the moment, you're in a very small pool of people. The lowest price right now on this field of play, there's a company out there, but I know, even though they pay a broker bonus and they've got really sharp rates, they currently insure about 1,400 people in Illinois. That's not enough. One guy goes on kidney dialysis, you're all sharing in those claims, your rates go through the roof. I don't want to be with 1,400, I want to be with 40, 50, 60,000 people. Give me a big risk pool that's stable. And that presents itself pretty clearly when you look at these companies. Please.
How often can they change these rates? In other words, can they change them within the year or not?
Typically, everyone has a rhythm, okay? Blue Cross, for example, their supplements go up every year in April. I don't care when you signed up. You sign up in February, they're going up in April. AARP, which is United Healthcare, they take their rate increases in June. Mutual of Omaha, another great company, they do it on the policy anniversary date. But you can rest assured these rates will go up every year, and it just depends on the timing of the company. But you want to look at those companies and you want to see, it's not just who has the lowest price today, because I promise you in 2 years they won't have the lowest price. You want to know what's their financial rating, you want to know how long they've been in business, you want to understand customer service is pretty darn important, and you want to know how many people do they insure. That's a big number, that's very important. And that drives what's called their medical loss ratio. There's some companies right now in the supplemental world, I can show you on the computer, they're actually paying out more than they're taking in premiums. That don't work. They're headed for huge rate increases. We can see it coming if you look, but this is a world, the old adage is true, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. I figured it out. N is N no matter who I get it from, so I'm going to go online and I'm going to pick the lowest priced one, because if anything ever goes wrong, I can change it every year, guaranteed. That is not correct. You had a window and you used that window to go with the smallest player, might not have been the smartest choice. We want to make fully informed decisions here, okay? Please.
You're saying N is the cheapest if you stay under 25 visits.
N makes sense from a financial perspective, as long as you're not going to the doctor more than 25 times a year. There's another supplement, which we do a lot of business with. You can barely see it here on the screen, but there's a supplement that says you'd accept even more out-of-pocket to drive your premiums down. It's called high deductible, and it says that you would pay the first $2,870 in charges. You'd pay that. After that, the supplement picks up 100%. A lot of people look at that number and say, oh my gosh, $2,870, that's a lot of money. No, it's not. Have you looked at your employer plan? Most employer plans, the out-of-pocket maximum is $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 is not unusual. These are huge numbers. But to drive premiums down even further, you could accept a higher out-of-pocket. Remember that when we talk about Advantage programs. How do these Advantage programs get to a zero premium? Higher out-of-pocket, network restrictions, co-payments for everything. That's not a bad thing, but we want to understand what we're getting ourselves into. The one with no deductibles got to be more expensive than the one that's got the deductible. The one that's got the deductible and co-payments has got to be more expensive than the one that has the higher out-of-pocket. Pretty simple. The more we want the insurance company to do, the more they'll charge. The more you're willing to participate, the lower those premiums, okay? Please.
Those 25 visits, does that include 1 for x-ray, 2 for something else, or is it only doctor visits?
It would be only doctor visits, and go back to that for just a second, back up here. That N, for example, once you've paid for the premium, it pays the hospitalization copayment, it pays the skilled nursing copayment, it pays the hospice copayment, it pays the labs, the diagnostics, the DME, the PT, the ambulance. There's a $50 emergency room, there's a $20 physician, but they take care of all the outpatient and all the clinical RX. It can be a very good value for those that are in reasonably good shape. Most people, you know, they're going to the doctor 2-3 times a year, maybe. 25 is a big number, and it's worth looking at because there's potential changes. Yes, please.
Is that 25 visits to the same physician?
No, that's to all your doctors, every doctor. People get into the end not realizing what they've done, and then they realize, wait a second, you mean the chiropractor is a doctor? Yeah. The podiatrist, I thought that was just a foot guy. No, that's a foot doctor, right? All those doctor visits. So you got to look at it, and understand the price increases of these supplements being driven by your risk pool, okay? So the pool that you're in drives those rate increases. It's never you, it's everyone that's in the pool. Well, think about the F that pays everything, and they stopped selling it to new enrollees in 2020. What did that do to the pool? No new people are joining the F pool. It's getting smaller and older and sicker and smaller and older. Those F rates are going through the roof. Who takes G? I understand peace of mind, but I also understand, not picking on G people, but people who take G usually have a reason to take G. They had an issue, or they got storm clouds on the horizon. Maybe they just like peace of mind. But these G people have a utilization rate that they all share in. Who would take a program that has doctor co-payments? Well, somebody that's not afraid of doctor co-payments. Who's not afraid of doctor co-payments? Healthier people. The rate increases on N have been less than those rate increases on G. Please.
Does that include like physical therapy?
No, PT is not a doctor. Your chemotherapy treatments, that's a tech. We're talking about doctors where you see them in their office, not even in the hospital. So a lot of good stuff is covered. It just is a question of, does it make sense? Please, I'm sorry.
What about dentists?
Dental is not covered under original Medicare. We'll talk about that when we get to Advantage. But dental is something you take offline. Are there any dentists in the house this evening? I don't mean to gore anybody's ox, but dentists have somehow gotten away with not participating in any of this stuff. And many dentists, Taylor, how many dentists take real Medicare? None. How many take dental insurance?
About 1 in 5 I'm finding anymore, so.
And you got to be careful when you shop for dental insurance, because when you ask your dentist, do you accept dental insurance? They'll tell you, we'll bill anybody. But that's not the same as being in network and getting the network negotiated discounted rate. It's becoming tougher and tougher. Dental's a big issue, okay? Good question, please.
The 28 deductible, 2,870, is that for G? Does that lower the premium?
It lowers the premium quite a bit.
Equal to N at that point?
It's actually less expensive than the N from a premium standpoint, but could have a higher out-of-pocket if something went wrong. But
You got 2,800 deductible.
and the magic of Medicare, to go back to it, anyone who's seen a Medicare bill knows what I'm talking about. With Medicare, once you've paid that deductible, that's dollar for dollar, that's retail, you've paid that. Before you get to the 80-20 split, the magic of Medicare, call it that little dash, they start taking their negotiated discount. Anybody seen the Medicare negotiated discount? It's crazy. The cardiologist says, I'm brilliant, I charge $350. Medicare says, you're adorable, we pay $80. You're responsible for 20% of the 80, and those $16 go towards your $28.70. If you spent the night in the hospital, okay, yeah, you'd pay the $16.76. That would go towards that $28.70. But the idea, you need to go for an MRI. The hospital will tell you an MRI is $2,200. Medicare says we don't pay $2,200. We pay like $600 for an MRI. You're responsible for 20% of the $600, and that $120 goes towards that $28.70. It can be a very powerful tool that people look past all the time. I don't think they look past it. I just think there aren't agents talking about it because nobody wants to sell you a $45 insurance policy. It seems to me, my experience has been, the world of insurance, the cornerstone is let's scare the bejesus out of people and load them up while we got the chance. That's why we still have so many people walking around with F. It's frustrating because I know there's a better option for them, okay? So there's A and B, good but not complete. Supplements, pick your litter. Then we still need a drug program, and the drug programs are viciously competitive. This year there's 15 of them. We run the gamut from a zero premium to $125. Why would anybody want a $125 premium? Because it's got a broader selection of really expensive drugs for lower copayments. But 15 drug programs, like 15 different restaurants offering you coverage. What's the right one for you? Well, you'd have to know that all of these different formularies that are on here, some drugs, most drugs are generics these days. Generics would be very inexpensive, and you would know them. The the history, all the statins, all the blood pressure, the metformin, a lot of stuff is generic, and it's usually even a zero copay. Non-preferred, those are newer drugs, newer generics. But when you veer into tier 3 and 4, that's when things get spendy. This is stuff that's advertised on TV. If we've seen the happy dancing Jardiance lady, okay, that's an expensive drug. TV ads are ridiculously expensive, and you'd have to understand that you'd have a higher copayment for those meds. Tier 4, even more. Tier 5, these are god-awful things. Anti-rejection drugs for transplants. AIDS medications, chemotherapy that you take in the privacy of your own home. Now there's oral chemo available. They would have much higher co-payments for that. The idea that each of these 15 drug programs will be different. They have to be different to exist. They have to have a reason to exist. One company may have your drug as a tier 3. Another may not cover it at all. Another may have it as a tier 4. This year, your coverage covered it as a tier 3, but next year they've moved it to a tier 4. That's where that annual notice of change is so important. Keep your eyes open for that. If we're working with our parents, you've got to see what's going on with that annual notice of change. All of the drug programs now have a $2,000 maximum out-of-pocket on co-payments. That's been a godsend for people that are taking a lot of expensive drugs. It's actually forced premiums up for most people, but in a world, if you were taking things like Humira or Enbrel or Skyrizi, anybody know the Skyrizi guy, the guy with the red arm, right? He takes the med and his arm's not red anymore. That stuff's like 15 grand a month. It's crazy. But he's in a world now where after $2,000 in co-payments, that doesn't include the premium of the plan that he's chosen, but that $2,000 in co-payments, once he's hit that, he pays zero for his Skyrizi for the rest of the year. He'll max out month 1, and then the rest of the year he gets rate relief. The drug programs continue to evolve, very competitive. It would be silly not to check them on a regular basis and stay in touch with drug programs. Questions on drugs? My favorite topic, okay? All right. So, oh yeah, I always want to point out, you should know, everyone in the world of Medicare is happy and smiling, okay? You guys are expected to participate. But we're trying to figure out, what are we going to do? How are we going to do our drug program? Well, we have a tool on our website. You're more than welcome to use it. You can also go to the federal government, Medicare.gov, compare health and drug plans. We can run this every year. It's foolish not to. It's low-hanging fruit. We work with far too many couples who start on this pathway, and it's usually, I don't know, 7, 8 years in, it always seems like dad is sitting at the kitchen table, and he's got the bills in one hand, he's got the bills in the other hand, and you know, honey, when we started this journey, your supplement and your drug program, that was pretty reasonable. But now here we are 8 years later, between those two things, we're dropping $250 a month. And between my supplement, my drug program, we're dropping another $250 a month. That's $6,000 a year, and as far as I can tell, we went to the doctor 7 times. Is that value? I don't know. I do know that we'll get a shot at them. People tell them about our services. They'll come to our office in Lisle, or we'll do a Zoom, and we'll look at this, and the first thing you do is, my heart kind of falls, and I know why you took the F, but I got to ask, why did you take the F supplement? Well, the agent said it'd be the best possible thing, and it was the best possible thing for the agent, because it was the most expensive thing you could buy. You went to the doctor 7 times last year between the two of you, and you've got the Maserati. Maybe downshifting would be in order. And maybe we move them to the G. Maybe we even move them to the N. And even with pre-existing conditions, we have a supplemental company that will take them. That's a beautiful thing. And we can tune them up on the drug, on the Medicare supplement, and we look at the drugs, and sure enough, they haven't looked at that in 7 or 8 years. And I know why you took the $40 plan 8 years ago, because you were on 2 brand name drugs. But here we are 7 years later, that $40 drug program now is $100, and your 2 brand name drugs have gone generic. You don't need a $100 drug program. You need the $16 drug program, maybe even less. And you tune it up, and you move the pieces on the chessboard, and you put it together, and I get kind of excited for a brief moment, because they're going to save over $350 a month, and that's a great feeling, until mom wants to know, how long could we have been saving $350 a month? And you don't have the heart to tell them, well, at least I didn't meet you next year, right? This idea that people get into a position and they're not going to move. And we know, we've done consumer studies, the most terrifying word that the seniors can hear, be prepared for it. Here we go. Change. Oh my God, don't want to change. That's scary, right? Sometimes change can be good. And if nothing else, it's worth a look, just to take a quick look. Our rules, if we can't improve your situation, we're not going to move you. But more often than not, we find that there's opportunity. So Dad's over here now, he's looking at these numbers, and he says, you know what, I watch TV a lot, and Joe Namath was telling me that I should be talking about something called an Advantage program. And these things will be advertised incessantly right now because we're in this annual election period. And you could move to an Advantage program. They don't ask any medical questions at all. But remember, we said it's not Medicare, it's a Medicare replacement plan. What they're doing is the government is not running Medicare on your $185 a month. Can't be done. They're sending almost $1,000 a month to private insurance companies, and the private insurance companies say, really? Take care of Tom for $1,000 a month, and he goes to the doctor 3 times a year? You bet we can do that. And then they're making so much money that they're baiting the hook and trying to get you to come to these programs. And you'll note the Advantage program advertising scheme always comes down to dental, vision, hearing. Get all the benefits you're entitled to. That's what they're pushing because we know everyone's concerned about dental as they age. It's not bad, but it upsets me because of the wordsmithing that goes on. Need to understand what's going on. Here, we can see any doctor, any hospital, anywhere in the United States, they take Medicare, you're in. Here, no, we've agreed to some rules of engagement to drive our premiums down. Remember the supplement that was $2,870 out of pocket? That's going to be a very low premium. That's what Advantage does. You've got a higher out of pocket. That out-of-pocket is your responsibility, but you have an a la carte menu. Now, instead of paying a deductible and having everything covered with the G, now you have an a la carte menu. A primary, 5 or 10. A specialist, 25, maybe 40. The emergency room was 140. You took the ambulance, that was 280. You needed an MRI, that's 250. You spent a night in the hospital, that's 500, 500, 500. But there's a firewall built into these, so you're not running crazy, and you're just paying for your services up until an out-of-pocket maximum. These come in 2 flavors. HMO. HMO is very network restrictive, but the insurance company can control you. They'll give you better benefits. They'll give you more dental and more vision and more hearing and a lower out-of-pocket. Or I prefer a PPO. That's where you don't have yourself in a silo. You could have doctors at Advocate. You could have doctors at Silver Cross. You could have doctors at Dooley. You could see all those guys as long as they're in your PPO network. The idea here, we've got 3 parts to your coverage, like a 3-legged stool. Advantage, no. 1 card, 1 company runs the show. You're giving to get. You're rewarded with lower premiums because you're willing to accept a little bit higher out of pocket. And it is true, they will offer additional benefits. They're big on the dental and the vision and the hearing, but listen to the commercials. They're twisting. They're saying things that you might not fully comprehend. When they say dental, vision, hearing, get all the benefits you're entitled to. I know what you hear. You hear dental, you think dental insurance. That's not what we said. We said it's a dental benefit. Well, what does that mean? Root canal? No. Crown? No. Bridge? No. Cleanings? Yeah, we'll get you a couple of cleanings. One of the Advantage companies a couple of years ago, shameless, just shameless, their advertisements was that with that Advantage program, you got $20,000 of dental. $20,000 of dental. That's pretty good. What does it cover? Cleanings. That's it. I mean, seriously. But their phone was ringing off the hook because everybody wanted their $20,000 in dental. The Advantage programs under the very watchful eye of the new sheriff in town, and these guys have very, very severe restrictions, understanding that to get to an Advantage program, you still got to have A and B. You're never getting away from that. You're paying your Part B premium, but they're going to take that money and send it to a private insurance company. It's a private insurance company that's going to replace your original Medicare. They're available on a county-by-county basis. They have a tendency to coagulate where there's big populations. The program that you might get in Cook might not be available in Grundy, that kind of idea. But the first thing you'd ever do with any Advantage program, number 1, how's your health? Number 2, who are your doctors? We've got to make sure they're in network. And then this idea that they include additional benefits, sometimes those benefits can be very robust. There's a couple of programs this next year that literally do have $3,000 in real dental. You can use that for a root canal, a crown, but you got to understand the rules of engagement. Any Advantage program has got to be a subset of Original Medicare, right? Original Medicare is basically any doctor, any hospital. Advantage is going to be a smaller subset of that group. Please.
Did you just say that with the Advantage program that you're still paying a premium under Medicare?
Yes, sir, to the federal government.
And is it rated according to your income also?
You bet it is. And if you're paying IRMA, remember, IRMA on the Part B, also IRMA on the drug program, you'll pay that IRMA here because it's got a drug program built right into the chassis. You're not going to escape the long arm of the federal government, sorry.
So the only thing you're really gaining then is you don't have to get a secondary policy.
Correct. You've eliminated the premiums that you're paying for this here. But there's strings attached, right? No pathway is perfect. The question is what makes sense for your particular situation, which could be different than somebody else. They'll all have capped exposure. They'll all have co-payments for services, but those co-payments could be different. $10 for a primary, 0 for a primary, 25 for a specialist, 15 for a specialist. But all those co-payments, the government forces these guys to lay their benefits out in exactly the same fashion. We can sit in front of these brochures and show you each one and each one how they compare. It's beautiful. We can set them up against each other. They'll all have capped exposure, but I assure you the Blue Cross capped exposure is higher than the AARP capped exposure, which is higher than Humana. Aetna's in there. Big players here too. They'll include Part D wrapped up right in the chassis, and that Part D can have some sweeteners hiding in there, things that we want to be aware of. If you're taking expensive medications, you'd want to know a couple of years back, Blue Cross actually in their Advantage programs, they offered insulins for a 0 copay. That was huge. We moved a lot of diabetics into that program because back then, insulins were very expensive. So it's worth investigating. Maybe there's a drug that you're taking that would be more favorably treated. And these programs are all available to us during the annual election period. The idea that every year we have the opportunity to, as a person that's in Original Medicare, maybe entertain moving to Advantage. As the supplement prices keep going up, Advantage becomes a little bit more attractive and should be investigated at least. If you're already in Advantage, every year during this annual election period, you become a free agent. You have the ability to make changes. Oh, they're all the same. There's 58 of them. How could they all be the same? Oh, I could never qualify. There's no qualification questions whatsoever. The idea that people stay with the same program through the years, and I understand that's easy and that's fine. I'm not trying to rattle your cage. I'm just saying for not something that you look at every week or every month, but for 10 minutes a year, 10 minutes a year, is the program I'm in your estimation, the best program for next year? I don't know. It's worth taking a look, please.
If you have an Advantage program and I'm covered through VA Champs,
Okay. Yep.
they work in coordination with that program or they don't?
Typically they don't. We're counseled in my world, if you're on CHAMP or TRICARE, hands off. I don't want to touch that because I don't want to screw that up because that's a really good, that's a veterans deal. That's a really good benefit. Thank you for his service. Thank you for yours. But yeah, you want to be careful about this. And the idea that the Advantage programs, I'd be the first one to tell you, Advantage pays a much higher commission than these supplements. That can incentivize bad behavior. If you work with an agent and they only want to talk about Advantage, I know why they're doing that. They're getting double the commission that you get over here. But is it the right tool? I don't know. I know that Medicare is like a bag of golf clubs. Why are there so many clubs in a bag of golf clubs? Because every club has a different reason. It's a different shot. It's a different purpose. It's the same thing here. This is an example, just a mythical example of how one of those programs would work. You've got an a la carte menu. No premium, that's sweet, but $5 to see a primary, $40 to see a specialist. It's a PPO, so you don't need a referral. They front load the wellness because they know if you're in the hospital, nobody's making any money. The hospital here, $250 a night. If you could complain about that, a night in the hospital is at least $5,000. And if you stay more than 7 consecutive nights, they stop charging you. You've got, there you go, lab, a blood test is $13, an x-ray is $16. The ambulance is $200. You look at that in this in-network, your out-of-pocket maximum is $3,800. $3,800 is not a big number. It's not a deductible. It's everything that you're paying up to a maximum of $3,800. One example, but also note, out of network, you don't want to stay in network, you don't have to stay in network. You can go out of network. But wait a second, the co-payments go up, and oh my God, the out-of-pocket is unlimited. That possibility is scary to say the least. Questions on Advantage programs, please.
Do you still have to ask if they accept assignments?
No, that is with Medicare supplements. That is in particular the N as in Nancy supplement. Do they accept Medicare assignments? Here, you've just got to know, are they in network? Are they in my AARP United Healthcare? Are they in my Blue Cross? Are they in my Aetna? Got to make sure they're in network, because that's the key. And people will get into an Advantage program and they'll say, oh, they don't take my Advantage program. No problem, I'll use my Medicare card. No, you won't, because they're going to get that bill and they're going to send it back to you saying, we're not your insurance anymore. Now Advantage is your insurance. You have network restrictions, please.
Once you're in Advantage, can you switch at that yearly termination point back to Medicare?
In some states, you're trapped after a year. Medicare gives you a 1-year trial right. If you're over here and you decided to try an Advantage program, you get 1 year to try it on for size. If you like it and you stay with it, years down the road, you want to come back to original Medicare, you can put A and B back into primary position, get that card out, dust it off. You can pick a drug program. They're all available between October 15th and December 7th, and we can go ahead and apply for a Medicare supplement. I'm sorry, what was that again? We can apply for a Medicare supplement. You mean like I'm going to get a supplement, right? I didn't say that. You'd have to clear through underwriting, and in most states, you move to Advantage. In most states, that's a one-way street, because if you have pre-existing and you want to get back over here, you're not going to get a Medicare supplement. But in Illinois, remember, 2 words we don't often hear in the same sentence. In Illinois, we have a blessing. We have a Medicare supplement company that does not ask medical questions. We are able to help a lot of people in that regard, okay?
What about Illinois? In other words, can you transfer each year? If you're in the Advantage program, you want to transfer to the next year, or is it like one time you can do that?
With Advantage, every year you become a free agent. Every year, between October 15th and December 7th, you have the right to shop the market and change your Advantage program in any state, in any state. That's nationwide.
I thought you just said that you couldn't do that.
No, no, no. He was asking about moving back to a Medicare supplement. Moving back to a Medicare supplement, in most states, you'd have to answer medical questions. When you're in an Advantage program, every year you can change that Advantage to a different Advantage program. And this would be...
In other words, you can move from the Advantage back to Medicare, but you may have a problem getting into a supplement.
Correct. Okay. Except in Illinois, where we have one company that doesn't ask medical questions.
One company.
Correct.
All the rest of the 40 that they do.
Correct. Please.
With an Advantage plan, what about other parts of the country if you're on vacation?
You definitely would want, I would suggest you'd want a PPO, nationwide footprint, not an HMO. And the pitch on the HMO is that, well, if you have an accident in Colorado, the accident, you're covered for an emergency anywhere in the United States. I know, but that's a partial sentence. Because if it's an emergency in Colorado, yeah, you're going to be treated for the emergency, but as soon as you've stabilized, they're rolling you into the parking lot. You got to get back to Chicago, back to your HMO. With a PPO, you've got a nationwide footprint. That's why there's some fringe players out there in the world of Advantage that offer alluring benefits. But again, what happens if I'm water skiing in Florida and I blow out my knee? Might not be the best place to be. But the idea that you can shop the marketplace, and this year there's tumult. Aetna's having problems with Endeavor. Doesn't look like they're going to hook up this year. It looks like you're going to have to, if you've got Endeavor doctors, you got to get out of Aetna or change your doctors. They're getting into it with Dooley right now. So the rules of engagement can change, but the government continues to protect you. We said every year between October 15th and December 7th you can make a move. And in years gone by, if you didn't make a move, you were stuck. You didn't find out that your doctors no longer take it, and you got into January and you were stuck till the next annual election period. Government said that's not fair. So not only do you get October 15th to December 7th, but every year you get January, February, and March to be able to make a move. We call that the Medicare mulligan. You made a mistake, you get a do-over. So they protect you. They're out looking for you, but you got to meet us halfway on this information thing to investigate what we've got, okay? This is the highlight of my evening. We've gotten to the halfway presentation here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. You're supposed to laugh about that. What did we learn here tonight? A and B good, but A and B not A and B good, but not complete. To make it complete, we have a pathway called Original Medicare. We add a drug program and we add a supplement. Or there's some advantages to the advantage side of the equation. No one size fits all. I've seen through the years, it seems to me, my experience tells me, the female of the species seems to prefer Original Medicare. They've got their doctors, they've got their gynecologists, they'd rather divorce their husband than lose their gynecologist. They've got their team, and they're going to stay with their team. That's what they want, and that's exactly what Medicare gets you. Seems like men kind of operate under the Jiffy Lube philosophy of healthcare. They don't really care who they see as long as they're in and out in 20 minutes and they got a coupon, right? Different horses for different courses. The idea that not one plan is right for everybody, right? What we do is help you navigate. No charge for our services. What we want to try to do is help you make smart decisions. I am very appreciative of the opportunity to speak to you guys here tonight. Thank you for coming. Many of you are already in Medicare. Why would you be looking at this again? Because maybe you know there could be a change that was in order. Please.
How do you compare if you have your insurance from your original employer is your supplement? How can you compare that? Because a lot of times you don't even get that information.
Well, they got to give it to you. It's got to be online. They got to send you a summary of benefits if you request it.
And notification of change. We've never seen one, to my knowledge. Have you ever seen one?
You don't hit him. You saw that, right? Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, never. I would have to believe that they sent you some information initially. Is it in a retiree program? Is it an advantage program? Usually those are. Interesting, interesting. I'd love to see it. I'd love to look at it. Basically, when you make a comparison, I want to look at three things. One thing I'm going to look at network, because that's critically important. Then I'm going to look at out-of-pocket maximum. What's your worst-case scenario? And then we got to look at what are you paying for what you've got. Medicare, typically, if it's even close, Medicare is a better option. It's a better network and it's lower out-of-pocket. Please.
What do you need from your employer to go into Medicare? Let's say if you're in your 70s, you didn't get it when you're 65.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that there's some kind of a problem there. You need to be.
Well, there's not a problem if you've had creditable coverage. Right. So that creditable coverage, you would do that through Social Security. You do that through Social Security, and that would consist of two forms. One form saying, hey, now I'm ready. I want to start my Medicare as of the first day of any month. You turn that into Social Security, they'll be laughing as you leave because they're like, dude, you already turned 65. What gives you the thought process that you could even take Part B without penalties? The second form that your employer fills out, we can send that to you, that says, yep, he's been here, yep, he's been covered, he's cool since he turned 65. That would allow you to turn on the Part B automatically. That can be easily accomplished. It's just a couple of forms. You don't even need to meet with an agent at Social Security. There's a drop slot right inside the front door. Okay? What else? Taylor, what am I forgetting?
You know everything. Honestly, we're looking at, somebody mentioned, so I wanted to go back to that a little bit for those who aren't interested in Advantage or are, already not on that. Talk to your dentist. That's the biggest question I get. Talk to your dentist. Have a conversation with them about what they like, because that is definitely going to drive any decision that you make. I handle a lot of our dental business, so if you have questions about that.
Taylor also does a preponderance of rewrites. The number of people who realize their rates have gone too high and they want to maybe make a change. The idea is in about 3 minutes we can find out very quickly, are you eligible for medical underwriting? We can figure that out pretty quick, and we'll pursue that if that's a possibility. If not, we always have the company that doesn't ask medical questions. And yes, they'd have to be a little bit more expensive, because if you're not going to ask any medical questions, you're probably going to get some lemons. And I'm proud to say we have stuck that company with a lot of lemons because we've saved a lot of people a lot of money. We'll be here to answer any more questions. Thank you for coming here tonight. This is the part where you clap, okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dave. I told some of my colleagues back there in 20, 30 years, when we reach Medicare age, we have to try and remember this. But in any event, thank you for coming. Melinda mentioned, you know, our pathways thing, and she said that we're going to have some events. We probably won't have anything in that relation until next spring, just because of the holidays and the weather. But I do remind you that in the wintertime, in December, we have our holiday mixer or holiday reception, whatever you want to call it. We put a circus tent out in the parking lot, and we have hundreds of people that show up. And unlike tonight, we actually have beer and wine then, along with soda and water. And so be sure and come when you have that, because I mean, that's real popular. That's usually on a Thursday night. The following Saturday, we have pet pictures with Santa Claus. So we have that. This is popular too. We have people, you know, we have Santa Claus there, and we have dogs, once in a while a cat, mostly dogs. One year we had somebody that brought in a boa constrictor. Santa Claus was braver than I was until it started climbing up under his beard. He got a little nervous about that. And so that was the last time we had a boa constrictor as a pet picture. And we have an alligator, a 40-pound alligator snapping turtle, and that sucker was mean and he was mad. So Santa Claus wouldn't even hold him. The guy that brought him had to sit next to Santa Claus and hold him. But the point is keep in mind we have other events for all of our good customers, including all of you, of course. And it will probably be next spring when we will start having seminars again. You know, we had one a month or two ago on fraud. It was really well attended, over 100 people. We have this one, and then we're going to have some more. But some of these are going to be for all of our customers. Some of these are going to be for the Pathways only customers. Again, it doesn't cost you anything. You actually can get something out of it. So consider it when you're at the bank next time. So thank you all for coming. Oh, one more thing. Food. There is a lot of food left. So you don't have to run out right now. Go and get some food and take that out. Yes, ma'am.
I want to say, if anybody gets their form for their doctor visits and everything, double check it and don't have a heart attack when you see that you've been charged $10,000 for catheters and braces.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting hit with that. And when they call, some people are just so scared.
Well, you know, on these big, what I see is when I've been to, and I've had 2 stents and a couple other expensive medical issues in the last several years, you know, and you get, you see this, when they send you the invoice for your share, you see it starts at $10,000, then it's dropped by $8,000, and then Medicare pays $1,800, and you gotta pay $200. And I asked somebody at the hospital once, I said, how come they do that? He says, I don't know. So, but anyway. All right, food. So, thank you all for coming.